Years of the best sports talk in Middle Tennessee, featuring Tennessee Radio Hall of Famer George Plaster, Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame coach Watson Brown, and Young Guns Billy Derrick. And now, here's your host, George Plaster.
Hello again, everybody. Welcome in on what is, as I look outside, kind of a hazy Monday in Nashville. You're like, where are these guys? Well, we're at the Southeastern Conference Football Media Days at the Grand Hyatt Hotel in downtown Cranesville. Would you like that one?
That's
Good
pretty.
Lord. How many cranes can one city have?
It's unbelievable.
Oh, it's insane.
You can't even walk. I mean, you got to take shuttle.
Downtown's crazy.
It's nuts
right now. If you can get around downtown, more power to you. Let's say hello very quickly to Kelly Holcomb, who joins us from his palatial estate in Murfreesboro. Kelly, how are you?
Good, George. How are you doing?
Doing good. Doing good. By the way, thank you for being there last night with Senator Tracy. The evening with the four guys turned out incredible. We'll show quite a bit of this probably next week after SEC football media days are over.
It was nice. It was really good, George. I really applaud you for doing that, getting all the people there. There was quite a few people there, and it was very informative for people that love ball, love SEC football, love UT, and I thought they enjoyed it. I talked to several folks, and we just I told you that this morning. We've got to get this thing out there because everybody was coming up to me saying, I love listening to George. Not so much me, but I love listening to George. And we didn't know where he was, so I told him where we were, and hey, we got to get it. We got to get it out there.
Let's, Kelly, we're going to do this throughout the week. We have the luxury of two very good young reporters, Butch Samide, Battleground Academy graduate, Jack Gold. They are somewhere around the Hyatt. I don't know where, not sure I really care, but they will put together each hour kind of an SEC Media Days notes package. Let's bring them up here to get all of this started. Butch, tell me what we're doing.
Well, George, I think it all started really with Greg Sankey walking up there, and I couldn't tell if it was the start of SEC Media Days or if it was a World's Strongest Man competition, because he was flexing on every single person in the audience, bringing up the SEC had this many people drafted here, this many drafted here, 1 and 2 in the MLB draft, yada, 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 and so on and so forth. The SEC does not teach timeliness, though. I believe he was about 6 or 8 minutes late, making all of us wait. But on a serious note, Sankey did do a number of things that was very nice. He recognized the 5 officers that stepped up and took down the assailant at the Covenant School shooting, which was very touching. Very, very nice move there, as well as in memoriam of Mike Leach, not only having a little moment and a graphic for him, but also not wearing a tie, as I believe Coach Leach went on a huge rant last year about wearing ties and, not only the SEC media days, but just in general. So it was a great start. Had some moments of comedy, had some moments of reflection on this past year, but still wanted to show the biceps off a little bit as Sankey showed to everyone in attendance.
Yes, it just means more. And as I said last night, it just pays more. Let's check in with Jack Gold, who is in another part of the Grand Hyatt. So where have you snuck off to?
Up here on the 4th floor trying to figure out when they're going to feed us. Really, I've been snooping around. Nothing in the lunchroom down there, but I'm up here hidden away.
That's your priority. That's good to know.
Yes,
I'll pass that on.
It has been.
I'll pass that on to your dad. So tell us what you've been observing today.
Yeah, I'll hop on with Butch there about Mike Leach. I thought a really cool stat that I saw earlier was as every coach gives an opening statement each year, somebody did a word count from last year, and Clark Lea led the way with 2,340 words. Shane Beamer was second with almost 2,200. Some other names: Saban with 1,300, Heupel with 1,100. Second to last was Lane Kiffin with 200, and Mike Leach, last place in opening word statement. He had 7 words last year. 7. So that was just an awesome thing that, just his life and how great of a guy he was. And he was quite the character.
He wanted to get everybody into the buffet line as quick as possible. So, guys, one thing that came out today was that the SEC, at least for the moment, has no plans of moving the football title game out of Atlanta. Butch, as Greg Sankey brought up, they're in negotiations right now with the city of Atlanta to continue what's been a very successful deal.
We lost Butch. There.
Am I back? Sorry, I went out
you
for
are.
a second
Go ahead.
there. Okay, so yes, as you said, George, Sankey did kind of dismiss the question of whether or not once Nashville does finish their new dome stadium, will there be, opportunities for the game to move to Nashville? And he pretty easily dismissed it. I mean, there wasn't a lot of, encouraging words if you're a Nashville sports fan that he would bring it here. Of course, then he cited a book. I swear he quoted 3 or 4 books that he's read. So I guess Sankey's main priority is reading books, because he quoted a book where, opportunities are always going to be, rich down the road. But he didn't show any indication that it would be moving anywhere but Atlanta. He praised the SEC and how they keep moving the media days. He quoted, besides COVID, the last 3 media days: Birmingham, Atlanta, Nashville, and then Dallas next year. So it's a little weird how praising the media days moving back and forth. But as of right now, it seems that he is more than willing to stay put in Atlanta for that championship game.
Yeah, it was a big suck-up fest, to be perfectly honest. Jack, anything you want to leave us with?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. They've updated the field storming policy, which everyone always has thought was lame, getting fined so much, like Tennessee storming the field on Alabama and whatnot. The fines are now going to go basically directly to the revenue stream of the team. So in the Billy Derrick dream of Vanderbilt knocking off Alabama in Nashville, that's going to happen in a few years. Vandy's going to be paying money straight to Alabama, essentially.
Interesting.
Yeah, how about that? Guys, good work. We'll check back in with you around 3:12. I mean, let's get specific. Guys, thank you.
Of course, George.
Butch Samide on the right, Jack Gold in the middle, and now a little bit of an update.
little bit of an update, George. We got the SEC notes out of the way, but yesterday, the Titans signed DeAndre Hopkins to a 2-year, $26 million deal worth up to $32 million with incentives. And he's got all kinds of different bonuses in his contract. And I learned, George, that the Titans hosted him in a suite at Nissan Stadium for CMA Fest. So it feels like Hopkins sort of fell in love with Nashville. And that, not that, no one would, and we're surprised that he would, but I think he really enjoyed the city when he was here, and that was a big part of his decision. So DeAndre Hopkins to the Titans.
Kelly, it does seem like what they were able to portray was, listen, in a market that may not be what you really wanted it to be, we're the best option, and we're the best option by a pretty considerable amount.
I think that's probably what happened, George. I think the longer it went, of course, my philosophy didn't go over that he was trying to miss training camps because obviously he's about to start training camp this coming up week, so that didn't hold water. But I think you have to look around, and all the possibilities that may have been out there might have diminished. And I think the Tennessee Titans really needed him more than any other team. That's just my observation about it. And I think he can be the number one guy here, which we've talked about it over and over. That don't know if that could have happened at the other teams, but I think he will be that guy here, and I think he'll help these guys, and he's getting paid pretty handsomely too. So, and it can go up. I think the $26 million can go up, like Billy said, with incentives and stuff. I think the $32 million. So. Kudos to Tennessee for getting him here. They need him.
So Terry McCormick's going to join us by phone in about 8 minutes. Bottom line is they've gone from the worst wide receiver core in the league, and I think that was a pretty hands-down belief, to we know what Hopkins is. If Burks could make this rise past what he was a year ago, then you might have something.
I think you take a lot of pressure off Traylon Burks. I really do. I think everybody's touting him to be that, but when you tout a kid to be that, it puts a lot of expectations on you. And I think he can kind of relax now and learn from a guy that's been around the league for a long time and has done it at a high level. And I think that's certainly going to help him and help all the other receivers that are in that room.
Kelly, what else we got? Billy, what else we got?
In other news,
by the way, good picture on you.
Yeah, great shadows. You can really see me clearly here. This happened to us somewhere else. I guess it might have been the Sound Stadium where we're basically in the darkness here. But I'll get the lights in tomorrow.
People think it looks better.
George, are we unprepared again? Like when he went to Florida and we didn't have the lights? Is that what we're having here? A Billy malfunction?
Kelly's trying to stir something up here, isn't he?
I mean, what are we doing?
Yes, he is.
Well, I made sure George had the better lighting as opposed to me because, let's face it, my face isn't being shown as much as George's.
Right.
So I made a nice administrative decision on the fly that has benefited us, I think.
Well, what are you getting paid for if you don't bring the lights, Billy?
Well, Kelly, we're in tight quarters over here. Our lights
sorry.
are
there's no excuse. I don't need to hear it. I don't need to hear about the labor pains. Just show me the baby, okay?
That was well done.
That was pretty good. But no, Kelly, in all honesty, the lights will be here tomorrow, so you will be able to see my face. I know you want to see my face.
Good. Yes.
In other news, early this morning,
moving right along,
Clark Lea received a 3-year extension that'll carry him through the 2029 season. He had his first SEC victory since 2019 for Vanderbilt last year, first Power 5 win since 2018. So, I mean, it's headed in the right direction. Are you surprised it's only 3 years, George? I thought it might have been a little bit longer.
Well, first
not that
of all,
it really matters.
What's he been here? He's been here 3.
This is his third year.
This is his third year, yeah.
So I'm guessing he signed a 5-year deal to start with. So he's probably got 5 or 6, with this tacked on. I think most people believe he's doing about as well as he can do. They are a tireless recruiting staff, which I don't believe the last administration was at all. Toward the end, I have no idea what Derek Mason was doing. I've said that repeatedly. I think this group is trying very hard. I got no problem with it.
No, I mean, I think he deserves it, and we'll see. He'll be here tomorrow with Vanderbilt at 9 a.m. So we'll see from Clark Lea tomorrow. Brad Calipari, former Kentucky, I don't know if he was a grad assistant, an actual paid assistant under John Calipari, but John Calipari's son, Brad Calipari, will be on Jerry Stackhouse's staff. So that was made official this morning as well. I think we brought that up last week, maybe early last week. So that's some news out there. Also, 8 former Northwestern football players have retained noted civil rights attorney Ben Crump and a Chicago-based law firm to pursue legal action against the school for hazing incidents within the program. So we talked about Pat Fitzgerald and how he has lawyered up and he is going to fight it. Well, a bunch of Northwestern football players, former Northwestern football players, are also going to fight this. So,
well, if they knew this was going on, and obviously they did, why did they wait till now? I mean, is that a fair question?
Maybe they were trying.
That's a good question, George.
I mean,
maybe they were trying to figure out who to hire.
I don't get it.
But yeah, I mean, I think you got a good point.
If they were so bothered, shouldn't they have been bothered a week and a half ago before it got public?
Not a bad point, George.
A lot of things in this world I don't get.
George asks the good questions.
Everybody wants to lawyer up nowadays. That's for sure.
They do. Yes, they do. If you're not careful, somebody will do it to you.
You never know.
Hey, after the break, Terry McCormick's going to join us, and we'll talk a little bit about the Titans signing of DeAndre Hopkins. In the 3 o'clock hour, Gary Stokan, who is the CEO of the Peach Bowl, has done a remarkable job for the city of Atlanta with their various sports. He will join us right at 3 o'clock. And then at 3:20, Adam Sparks, formerly of the Tennessean, now of the Knoxville News Sentinel, to talk about the NCAA and what they have found out involving the University of Tennessee. It will not be a dull show. You need to stick around. We're coming back in just a moment.
How am I going to get to work? My car's totaled.
Skylar, our team is making a call right now. We'll get you a rental car. Don't worry.
That's a relief.
Call us 24/7. We're here. We're going to help.
As a lot of you know, our show is now more than a year old, and that's a great testimony to some of the viewership that we have had from you all. So a big thank you right there. If you're new to all of this and you're wondering, how do we see the show? Here's some of the ways. Of course, you can watch it live 2 to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. And the 3 biggest ways are Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Now, if you're working or can't watch the show live, you know what? All this stuff is archived in podcast form through 2 different ways. Apple, Spotify, that's the way you do it. You can go Apple Podcast or Spotify, and you're probably sitting there saying, George, you don't know what any of these mean. Well, I'm learning. I can at least spit it out now. Hope that you will continue to enjoy our show, because as football season revs up, we've got some great things planned. Thanks for being with us. Year number 2 of the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night was awesome. And the reason is really simple. I chose Strike and Spare, and they were amazing. They have great food, great bowling, and a staff that is truly ready to go the extra mile to help you. They have 5 family fun centers in the area to choose from. And for more info, go to strikeandspare.com or call them at 615-824-5685.
You can't see the sights without the sounds.
From the crack of the bat to the roar of the crowd and everything in between, discover what Hit City has to offer. Spend your nights cheering on the Nashville Sounds at First Horizon Park with giveaways, fireworks shows, theme weekends, and more. Single game tickets are on sale now. Visit NashvilleSounds.com to claim your seat today.
So who said I can't be a golfer? Well, you know what? This is X Golf, located just down the road from the Fordyce Center in Bellevue. This is fun. It'll improve your golf game, and you need to stop in and check it out. 8138 Sawyer Brown Road, and who knows, I may get to 200 before it's all over. We're back at SEC Football Media Days, Grand Hyatt Hotel in downtown Nashville, or as I called it earlier, Craneville. Let me be honest. When I first heard the Titans going after DeAndre Hopkins, I thought this had no chance whatsoever. And I guess there's a part of me that as it went along really didn't understand why he would want the Titans. But you know what? Kudos to Rand Carthon and his staff, because apparently they did a heck of a job in the recruiting of this incredibly talented wide receiver who has been such a great pro for a long time. Terry McCormick, Main Street Media, joins us by phone to talk about it. Terry, in the end, did they just want him more than everybody else?
I think so. I think their contract offer apparently was also appealing to DeAndre Hopkins. If the numbers that are out there are close to being accurate, sounds like he's going to get about $26 million over 2 years, with about 12 guaranteed for 2023. So in that regard, sounds like the Titans upped the ante enough that they piqued Hopkins' interest and were able to sign him.
Clearly, they had a need at wide receivers, the worst receiving core in the NFL before he gets here. Terry, is this a deal where to get it done, they're going to have to dump somebody? And is that somebody part of that wide receiver core?
Perhaps, but not necessarily. I mean, there's a number of, you're going into camp with 90 bodies. And so when you have that many guys, you can, pretty much drop somebody at whatever place that you feel like you need to. Imagine, George, them being in a situation where they would have to drop a wide receiver. But I do think in the end, when you get down to the final 53, I think it becomes a situation where one less receiver that was in camp is going to be on that roster thanks to DeAndre Hopkins signing.
Do you care to speculate?
Well, I think it would probably come down to maybe you put a Colton Dowell on the practice squad to start with, or maybe you move on from a Racy McMath, or maybe a Chris Moore doesn't show you enough as a veteran signing this offseason to be able to say he's one of your best 53. I think it comes down now, if Hopkins is healthy and productive, and you've got Traylon Burks and you've got Kyle Phillips coming back, you got Nick Westbrook-Akina probably going to be on the team because he's very versatile, can play special teams. I think it comes down to those 2 or 3 guys that I mentioned before fighting for a couple of spots.
So let me bring Kelly into this if we can as well. Kelly, in your mind, does this signing put them dead even with Jacksonville, slightly behind, slightly ahead? In your mind, what does it do?
I don't know, George. I don't know if you can make those predictions right now. Obviously, Jacksonville's coming on. They've got a lot of young talent. I certainly think that and I've said it before. I think that if Tannehill does not get hurt last year, they win that division. They go to the playoffs. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I think DeAndre Hopkins obviously lifts this up, and I think it's going to be a battle. We'll just have to see how he fits into the team. That's the one big question that nobody really knows. When you get a free agent, sometimes guys with the talent of DeAndre Hopkins and the catching ability that he has, he just doesn't fit. I don't think that'll happen. I hope for the Titans it doesn't happen, but you just don't know until he gets out there, and this offense might not fit him. But I was going to ask Terry this, George. With this signing, don't this help Derrick Henry quite a bit? Because I think last year nobody was scared of the guys outside, so they knew and they know who the guy on the team that they had to stop was. They could not let Derrick Henry get going. So I would think that would certainly help Derrick Henry, where they can't load the box, and now they've got a threat outside with DeAndre Hopkins. So you have to account for him. So I'm thinking that helps Derrick Henry.
Oh, I absolutely think you're right. And I think the other person that helps is Treylon Burks, because I think they view him as a potential future number one, but this means that he doesn't have to be that right now. And with the presence of DeAndre Hopkins, it's going to mean more opportunities for Derrick Henry to find some rushing lanes, and it's going to be more opportunities for Treylon Burks to have single coverage on the outside and be able to win his battles rather than being the guy that gets all the attention with the safety help rolled over against him.
Kelly, keep going if you've got anything else.
Well, no, I think that's absolutely right. I think when you talk about, and I told George this before you came on, Terry, that this is probably going to help Treylon Burks. The expectations that came from him last year, being the number one draft pick for the Titans, there's a lot of expectations on a young guy like that, and when sometimes you can't live up to those. And I think with going into this season with no wide receiver, no big time wide receiver, I think that was putting a lot of pressure on him, where I think that he can learn. I've said it over and over. I think he can learn from DeAndre Hopkins, and I think DeAndre Hopkins is a huge boost for that receiver room because he can teach all those guys how to be pros. And I think you're absolutely right. I think that he's going to get a lot of one-on-one matchups. So now we're going to see what kind of player he truly is. And hey, he's got to go win those battles.
How it was for Corey Davis when A.J. Brown arrived on the scene. It allowed Corey Davis to flourish because he didn't have all the attention on him. And I think the same thing could be true for Burks with the arrival of DeAndre Hopkins, because that with the track record Hopkins has, at least early on, the attention is going to be focused on him on the outside. The double coverages are going to roll his way most of the time.
Terry, who are you hearing with the kid, the Pettit? I don't know how you say his name. Is it Pettit Frere? I'm not sure. But the right tackle that got the gambling suspension, who is the odds-on favorite to kind of take his spot for the first 6 games?
Nice pun you had there. Odds-on favorite there.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think it could be one of any number of guys. They could move Daniel Brunskill from right guard to right tackle. He played some right tackle with the 49ers a few years ago. I think it's possible that, some of these other guys, is Jalen Duncan, a 6th-round rookie. That would be asking a lot for a 6th-round rookie to be able to, come right in and start right away for the first 6 games of the year. Or they could go outside the building and, sign a free agent. I think there's that guy, I think his name is George Fant, I think his name is, from Western Kentucky, that was released here recently by the Jets. That might be an option if they want to go with a veteran. Or, there's some talk that people think they ought to shift Skoronski or Dillard over there and put, either put Skoronski at right tackle or put Skoronski at left tackle and move Dillard over to the right. So they've got options. I'm going to be very interested to see which one they go with on the very first day of camp when they put that first 5 offensive line out there on that first day they're in pads.
Yeah, I'm sure everybody's interested in that because we all know that's where it starts. We all know that it starts up front on both sides of the football. So I think that we're all interested in that. I know Ryan Tannehill's interested in it as well. So it's going to be interesting to see, George.
Terry, let me see, and you may not be able to answer this, but is this a deal where the Titans made one offer and then said, wait a minute, we're really in the ballpark and up the ante? Or was this the offer all along?
Yeah, I really don't have an idea on that. I mean, there were reports that the Titans had put an offer out there. Then there were reports that, that they didn't put an offer, and then reports that, okay, they did put an offer now. So who really knows behind the scenes? I think that they probably, gave him a starting point. My guess would be that they didn't just go with, here's what we can do for you, take it or leave it. My guess would be that they probably sort of like negotiating buying a car, George. You don't start with your best offer, but you work up toward it and try to meet somewhere in the middle if you can.
That's interesting because I had some car issues this weekend, Terry. Thank you for bringing that up.
No problem.
So Terry, is there anything else left to do in this off season now that this has happened? Does this officially close up shop?
Well, I guess it all depends on what they want to do at the right tackle position. I still think that it's possible they'll add a veteran there, but the thing of it is, if they add a veteran there and know that this is a temporary fix, that this is a 6-game type of deal, then Petit Pereira's coming back to claim his starting job, or so the thought is. I think if you go out and you get a veteran and he's on your roster week 1, you're guaranteeing his salary for the entire 17 weeks, whether he's on your team or not. Most teams that are in this type of situation, they make do in week 1. Then if they realize they need help, they go sign a veteran that got released in final cuts and add him starting week 2. Now that's a little bit of a gamble because those guys that come in like that, they don't have the experience of you being with you in camp. They don't have the experience of working with the other guys. They're just coming in cold off the street. But then again, the Titans have been pretty good at finding guys cold off the street over the last couple of years to plug holes. So they may want to roll the dice. We'll see.
Okay, last thing for you. When this first came out, the Titans are pursuing DeAndre Hopkins. I would have put the odds at less than 5% that they could pull this off. And kudos to Rand Carthon for making it happen. Terry, when you first heard they were going after him, what did you think?
I thought they had a shot. And I think the reason that I thought they had a shot was because it was an area of need, and there was the familiarity between Tim Kelly and Mike Vrabel with DeAndre Hopkins. If this was somebody that they had no familiarity with, no past with, I would have been like you and probably, said 5-10%. But I do think that the fact that they had a familiarity with the player and they know him, they know his work ethic, they know his talent. And I think that what that does is that gave them an increased interest in him because they knew who he was.
Terry, appreciate on short notice the visit. This is big news in Titans territory, and well, it should be. This is a step in the right direction, and that's something we haven't always felt in the last 6 to 8 months. So here we go. Let's see what happens.
All right, sounds good.
Terry McCormick, Main Street Media, joining us on the show. After the break, the three of us will talk some SEC football, and I will ask the question, should the league be sucking up to Texas and OU so quickly that league meetings, football media days, are moving to Dallas next year? Stay tuned.
As the trusted premier custom home builder in Middle Tennessee, Donnelly Timmons has over 20 years of experience in the industry. Whether you're looking to build your dream home or renovate your current home, their team will ensure that every client and every remodel is unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donnelly have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonnellyTimmons.com.
For over 35 years, Wilson Bank & Trust has been committed to providing customized banking solutions to help individuals, families, and businesses in Tennessee achieve their goals. As your full-service community bank, we are proud to offer loans with competitive rates, local decision-making, and fast, friendly service from our experienced lenders. No matter where you are on your financial journey, Wilson Bank & Trust is ready to help you take the next step. Visit your nearest Wilson Bank & Trust office or online at wilsonbank.com to get started today. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Family owned and operated for more than 2 decades, Alaco Fine Wood Floors is Nashville and Middle Tennessee's choice for premium quality hardwood floors. Since 1995, Jimmy Alaco and his army of employees have embodied the approach of taking pride in one's craft and providing superior customer service, growing from a one-man shop to a team of 23 professionals who share the founder's passion for quality craftsmanship and customer satisfaction. If you are interested in contacting them, you can find their headquarters at 2505 Winford Avenue in Berry Hill, or give them a call at 615-356-0303. Again, that's 615-356-0303, or log on to alacofinewoodfloors.com. Alaco Fine Wood Floors, serving Middle Tennessee's hardwood flooring needs since 1995.
At Baird, we have a different slant on global financial advice. That global capabilities mean nothing without personal attention. We have investor relationships in 35 countries and market expertise in over 40 industry verticals, all to help make the most important investment connections of all, yours. Global financial advice with a client-first approach. It's the shape of things to come. Discover the Baird difference at BairdDifference.com.
The 3 o'clock hour is going to be very interesting. Gary Stokan, who is the CEO of the Peach Bowl, involved in a lot of the national title stuff that goes on in the stadiums and all that kind of jazz in Atlanta, will join us. And then Adam Sparks from the Knoxville News Sentinel. And boy, he has been a busy camper here in the last 72 hours.
Yeah, he has gone through text messages from Jeremy Pruitt, other assistant coaches at Tennessee. He has, I don't know the number, but it's an insane amount of text messages he has gone through, and he has come up with a lot of details of the everything that went on with Tennessee under Jeremy Pruitt. So really interested to hear some of those.
Okay. Maybe this is me being completely immature.
Which isn't hard. Yeah, which isn't hard.
Wow. Is it a little early to suck up to the Oklahomas and the Texases to have SEC football media days in Dallas? And here's a little of where I'm coming from. Most of the SEC media that covers these things will find Atlanta and Nashville to be a lot more convenient to get to.
Mm-hmm.
Dallas is not.
Mm-mm.
This seems a little early to me. What do y'all think?
It's done maybe a year or two early, But I mean, they were eventually going to bring this event to Dallas anyway. And I mean, Nashville, it feels almost early for Nashville in a weird way. I know Nashville is
Why? This has been an SEC city for 150 million years.
There's people that never wanted it to move from Hoover anyway.
Well, no, I get that.
So, you got Nashville, and all of a sudden, okay, what's coming next? Dallas, surely soon. So, yeah, maybe a year or two early. But Texas, and Watson talked about it last night at the speaker series, how passionate Texas, their fan base is, and Oklahoma, and that Dallas market will represent it. And it'll feel like an SEC setting type in Dallas. But, yeah, maybe a year or two early, but, I mean, it was going to happen eventually.
Kelly?
Times change. They've gotten into the realm of expanding, so they're going to Texas. And I also like what Watson said was that the Texas A&M people were probably pretty upset that they brought Texas in, because they were out recruiting Texas by far, because they've got the lure of the SEC, and the kids down there wanted to be part of an SEC program. So that's probably going to hurt Texas A&M when Texas comes in. So it's everything changes. We all know, unlike Billy, we all know that with the expansion, they're going to go around. It's kind of like the NFL now, going around to different cities with the NFL draft. It looks like the SEC is kind of taking that kind of same approach, where we're going to have it at different places each year and try to expand our brand.
So if you go back 2 years ago, when Brent Zwerneman at these meetings in Atlanta broke the story, the SEC had no clue the level of what he had. And I've had Brent on this show 2 or 3 times. It's hilarious to talk about when he went up to Sankey and said, "I've got the story. Want to comment?" And there was a little bit of a, swallowing of a hand grenade. A&M over the years has sort of felt like the bastard stepchild to Texas. Texas is this, A&M is, Cal College.
12th man.
12th man. Well, but I'm talking about how they've been viewed in Texas. They've been viewed as below Texas. A&M has. Yeah. So all of a sudden, A&M struck gold. They get to the SEC. It just means more. It just pays more. And all of a sudden, Texas is like, oh, my God, they've trumped us. So Texas, behind A&M's back, gets this league to agree to this. Ross Bjork, who I have known going back to his Western Kentucky days, if you remember, Ross Bjork exploded. Didn't know it was coming, ticked off, and then they put the high, whatever, kibosh on him, and now you don't hear anything.
Yeah.
But the A&M people were pissed because it was their one advantage. It was their one chance to get ahead of Texas, and I think they feel like the league kind of screwed them on it.
Yeah, and for A&M, it almost feels like that advantage, it's obviously slipping away, but in Jimbo Fisher, as you mentioned, Jimbo Fisher, it's like his hold on college football has slipped away these past 5-6 years. Had a great run at FSU, comes up to A&M, has a couple good seasons. Last year, 5-7. It just feels like it's starting to unravel a little bit. Not saying it's dead, but this is a big year for A&M. And because Texas and Oklahoma are going to be in it next year, and they're going to be ready. I mean, Watson talked about it. Now, Texas, I think, will probably be a little bit more ready than Oklahoma, but both of those fan bases, programs, coaching staffs are going to be ready. And A&M, I'm afraid they might fall behind them even.
Well, I don't know. Look, I don't pretend to know A&M's roster maybe the way I should for this discussion. But, Kelly, it seemed to me that the whole thing was they were mediocre at quarterback in an era where if you are, you will die on the vine.
Yeah, and I don't know why, George. When we had the Texas A&M guy on last week, we talked about that. I talked about Max Johnson being down there. They've got some 5-star guys. Obviously, Max Johnson transferred in from LSU. He's a really good player. I think the biggest thing that is going to help them is Bobby Petrino. I think he's the new offensive coordinator down there. I've always said it. When you go to a big school like the SEC or a Power 5 school, I know that a lot of coaches like to do this, and Mike McCarthy's doing it at Dallas. But I think you need to be a head coach. There's so many things that you have to handle when you go to these big schools as a head coach, and it has nothing to do with the field. You've got off the field stuff. You've got to make sure these kids are not gambling, are not doing things they're not supposed to be doing. And then when you have to go into these meetings, and obviously the head coach he knows what's going on, but when you have to have a team meeting and then y'all split up and offense and defense go. Well, the head coach is up there, and if he's the offensive coordinator, he's got to run the meeting, or if you're having somebody run the meeting for him. So I don't know. I think that's just a lot for a head coach, especially in the SEC or the Big Ten, to be able to do that. I think the same thing happened in Michigan when Jim Harbaugh was trying to do that. He relinquished the offensive coordinator position to somebody, and then they've gotten better, and they've beaten Ohio State the last 2 years at their place and then at Ohio State's place. So I just think it's hard for a head coach at one of these Power 5 schools to do both. It really is. I just don't know how you do it. And I think the best hire that he's made is Bobby Petrino, and he's probably one of the only guys that's got kind of the ego to do that. He's been there. He's done that. I think it would be hard for a guy who's coming in that would be a younger guy, and he's maybe only had one offensive coordinator position other than that, and he comes into Jimbo Fisher. I think Jimbo Fisher is probably too strong and too strong-willed about his offense, but I think Bobby Petrino can handle that, and I think that's probably the best hire that he's made.
Yeah, and listen, if he doesn't do what Petrino wants, he'll just simply ride out on his motorcycle.
Yeah, exactly.
I've been saving that one up.
You were brainstorming that one for the last 5 minutes.
Been rolling through there.
But George, Fulmer talked about that last night, and he kind of
the motorcycle.
No, the aspect Kelly was talking about, where as a head coach, you cannot track everything that goes on.
Lord, no.
And Fulmer kind of slipped it in there last night during the speaker series, where you can't. And so for Petrino to come in and take over the entire offense, basically, I mean, that should be nice for Jimbo. But we also talked about it earlier. Can he do that? Or has he already done it? Maybe
who knows?
I think that's still a big question.
Who knows? In the first couple of games, I don't know who they play, but normally early September is Cupcake City for a Texas A&M. Let's just see. We'll pull up here who they've got. New Mexico, poor old UL Monroe. And Miami of Florida in between. So you got New Mexico, go down to Miami. That's where we'll learn some things. And then poor old UL Monroe. Gosh.
The Warhawks.
The whipping boy.
The Warhawks.
Can we get a check?
That's all we want.
Hey guys, he might have been told, you've got to do this. You have to. He might have been told, given an ultimatum, like, if you don't do this, you're out of here. So we never know what goes on behind closed doors. I talk about that all the time.
Yeah.
And that could have happened.
But he's got a little piece of leverage too. Okay. If they get rid of him, they owe him half the state.
It's like $70 million.
Million?
I don't know about half the state.
Crazy.
A lot of oil money in Texas. That might be a quarter.
But that's going to take 8 or 9 little J.R. Ewing wannabes to come in and
they don't
stroke a check. I mean, they're not going to you for $50 and me for $125. This is going to take some money. This is not chump change.
And Brett Zwerneman has told us they don't want to do it. They don't want to do it anytime soon. And why would they? I mean,
because they can't afford it.
Exactly. So, but there's still pressure. That doesn't mean it. All right, you got 3 years, and then I mean, you're in Texas.
That's the one big thing. That's the one big thing, George, though. That's the one big thing, guys, where why would you give a guy all that kind of money? I mean, I understand that he did that at FSU, but that doesn't mean he's going to do that at Texas A&M. I know you're coming to a different conference in the SEC where everybody wants to play, but I just don't understand why they're giving all these coaches this much money, and then you come into a situation where it just doesn't work out. Now you got to pay him. So I've never understood that.
Yeah. Okay, let me ask you all this. LSU just got finished with their session.
Mm-hmm.
There are people trying to put LSU at the Alabama and Georgia level. And I'll just say up front, I ain't buying it.
I'm not
How
either.
about y'all?
I'm not either. I've seen and witnessed too much of the overhyped Brian Kelly type teams at Notre Dame, where I know he's in the SEC now. He's got a good quarterback. They've got a lot of talent. But until Brian Kelly shows me he can be a consistently elite program, I'm not buying it. I've seen it. At Notre Dame, they had talent too. It's not like they were starving for talent. So I'm not buying it either. Now they're going to be a really good team. I just don't know if they'll be a top 3-4 team in the country with Alabama and Georgia.
Yeah, but they weren't an SEC team, though, Billy. I'm like y'all. I don't want to go there just yet, but they're really close. I mean, they've got a good quarterback who played really good last year, and he got hammered by Brian Kelly on the sideline at the beginning of the year. I mean, that dude, he's obviously got some thick skin, because if you watch Brian Kelly is really rough on the quarterback. It's kind of like Jimbo Fisher's the same way, but they've got some guys that can play, and I've got a friend that used to be a trainer down there, and he's talking about all the athletes that LSU has always had, and with Brian Kelly's experience and his winning, Notre Dame and LSU are totally different. Now, back in the day, it wasn't like that. When you had the Lou Holtz back in the day, Notre Dame they were the team, but now it's not that way. And I'm not saying that they're there yet. I don't think they are. But if he's doing it again next year, this coming up year, you got to give him that, because they beat Alabama last year at their place. Obviously, it was a 2-point conversion. It was a close game, and Alabama wasn't as good as they have been, but still they beat Alabama. So I'm not saying he's there yet, but they're pretty close.
Jaden Daniels is a stud. I mean, he's the difference maker.
He's pretty good.
For LSU.
Yeah.
And they've got the quarterback. Yeah, they've got the quarterback advantage over Alabama again this year. I mean, who's Alabama going to throw out there?
We don't know yet.
So they've got the advantage in the West. They might have the best quarterback in the SEC. So Kelly, you are right about that. It's a lot of it for LSU this year is on the shoulders of Daniels.
There's no question. I mean, you got to have a good quarterback, and I think somebody, even last night, Tony Barnhart talked about it. Back in the day, you could have a good quarterback, but in today's SEC and in today's Power 5 schools, you can't just have a good quarterback. You've got to have somebody that is elite that can make plays. And Jaden Daniels, coming from Arizona State, he started out there with Herm Edwards as a true freshman, and he's come to LSU, and he's took some verbal abuse, but the guy's got some thick skin and he can play.
Credit to Daniels. I mean, it's not easy coming into the SEC, taking some licks like that from the Pac-12, and then you get thrown into SEC action.
Here's one for you. Brian Kelly, if you're a quarterback, is an acquired taste.
Yes.
We'll go to the break on that. Then we'll do stat of the day. We'll probably bomb at it. And then Gary Stokan, who is the CEO of the Peach Bowl, will join us from the Grand Hyatt Hotel in Nashville. We're going to the break, and as we do it, let me talk a tad bit of you ready?
Music City Grand Prix.
Yes, it is just around the corner. I'm excited about it. I've never been to a Grand Prix, and there are others of you out there that are in the same boat. Maybe we'll learn together. What I do know is what I hear from other people who have been the last 2 years, and that is the event's incredible. It's one of the most exciting things they've seen. I'm looking forward to it. Tickets have now been on sale for a couple of months. It's as simple as going to musiccitygp.com. Again, musiccitygp.com. You can start as general admission, and work your way all the way up to the highest level of amenities that are out there. This is going to be fun. August 4th through the 6th. Get ready. It's coming soon.
Hey, thank you for meeting with me today. The insurance company has made an offer.
Already? Wow.
They've offered you the entire policy.
Thank you, Blair.
You're so welcome.
Forget the fact that Sir Speedy Music City is owned by my BGA classmate James Warren. Their work stands on its own merit. James and his staff do incredible work, as evidenced by the huge banners at the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night. If you're looking for quality to help your marketing and business communications, and you want it at a reasonable price, these are your folks. Call them at 615-832-9511 or go to print at sirspeedymusiccity.com. And be sure to tell them Plaz sent you.
Hello, this is Celeste Middleton, a State Farm agent in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. I want to help my neighbors and local businesses be proactive and assess their risk before something unexpected happens. We want you to have a thorough understanding of your coverages to have the best protection when you need it. We can create a personal price plan for you. Our team has over 70 years of experience helping people in Middle Tennessee. We have an awesome team with integrity and provide honest and prompt communication. And we love what we do and genuinely care about everyone we work with at our office. Give us a call at 615-895-2700. Send us a message at celestemiddleton.com or walk in at our office at 803 North Thompson Lane in Murfreesboro. We would love to earn your business.
Welcome to John English Antique Sports and Cards, located at 204 East Depot Street in beautiful downtown Shelbyville, Tennessee. Their phone number is area code 931-492-4304. John, obviously, I've been blown away by what I've seen at your place. I've now been there 3 times. But for the person who's never been, what should they expect?
Well, we have a 3,000 square foot store, George. Half of it is vintage cards in all sports. And then half of the store is, a lot of people call it the museum, where there's a lot of early equipment and just the history of sports in general, baseball, football, basketball, golf, tennis, and other items.
When somebody comes in there that you know is a big sports fan, what is their normal reaction?
Well, I think that they're pleasantly surprised, and of course, being in Shelbyville, Tennessee, which is a small town that you would never expect a shop like we have to be in. So they're kind of, I don't want to say blown away, but as I said, pleasantly surprised.
Welcome back to the George Plaster Show. It's time for Stat of the Day. We're broadcasting live from Radio Row at SEC Media Days in Nashville at the Grand Hyatt Hotel, also known as Cranesville. Thought that was a great line, George. Stat of the Day brought to you by...
That one I just sort of pulled out of left field. Yeah.
You can find John English's Antique Sports and Card Shop out in Shelbyville, 204 East Depot Street. They're open during the week, Tuesday through Friday from noon to 5, and Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 5. Give them a call at 931-492-4304. All right, we're keeping the college football theme rolling as we await Gary Stokan, the Peach Bowl CEO, and he might chime in on our stat of the day here.
You know what? If he gets it, we'll get him 2 tickets to the Peach Bowl. How about that?
Not that he wouldn't already have them. All right, here we go. We are 40 days away from week 0 of the college football season. Which college football wide receiver still holds FCS records for the most touchdown catches in a single season?
Kelly, I'll allow you to get this started.
Oh, wow. That's yeah, thanks, Billy. That's awesome. That's great. FCS. So we're talking about FCS, not the FBS, FCS.
FCS.
Oh,
They haven't got a
He was a
Only
decent NFL receiver.
He was
Gary
what?
wants a hint, and I think given that he's in our city,
How about conference? What conference?
Oh, I don't even know if I could say
What part
that.
of the year? Or what part of the what school? I mean, that part of the year.
Give us the school.
In the southeast. In the southeast.
In the southeast.
Southeast. Is it a Mississippi school?
Kelly's got it. Yes.
Well,
It's Jerry Rice.
Jerry Rice.
Boom.
Yeah. There you go. That's what I thought it was, but I just wanted to be for sure.
27 touchdowns.
Way to go, Billy. Good. That was a good question, Billy. Good
I
question.
know you had it there when you said Mississippi.
So
I knew that.
A year ago, we were able to meet up with Gary Stokan. I had heard this name for years. One of the real movers and shakers in the athletic world, and some of the things you have done for Atlanta are incredible. Thank you for joining us.
Well, it's very kind of you to say that. We been blessed. We have a great city. A lot of people call us the capital of college football. A lot of alumni live in the city. You know, it's a college football town, believe it or not, in a big city like Atlanta, and primarily because we didn't have pro sports till 1966. So college football was the pro sports throughout the Southeast. And, we endeavored to make Atlanta the capital of college football by, number one, we wanted to bring the College Football Hall of Fame to Atlanta.
Which is beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. We're very proud of that. It's a great entertainment opportunity for all fans, whether young or old, for college football. Secondly, we wanted to recreate the beginning of the season, because prior to us starting the kickoff games, there was a lot of non-directional schools. There was poor attendance. TV ratings weren't very good. And we started in 2008 with Alabama and Clemson. And Alabama would tell you that was the start of their dynasty that they've been on, because they came in to beat number 9 Clemson. And then the next year they went on to the national championship, which they beat Virginia Tech, number 7, in our kickoff game that year. And then thirdly, we wanted to rise in the ranks of the bowl games, and we were able to get in the CFP in 2014. So now what's the goal going forward? Number one, we want to continue to host the national championship game, which will be only the first city to host twice when we host in 2025, because we hosted in 2017. We want to stay on that rotation. And then we'll host the quarterfinals in 2024, and then the semis again in 2025. We want to stay in part of that CFP in 2026, whatever that new contract is.
So if I slipped you a little money and said, and by the way, what I've got, you would just be like, oh, get it out of here, please. But if I did, and I said, help our city, we're about to get in the Dome Stadium business, what advice would you give Nashville, Tennessee?
Well, Scott Ramsey does a great job. I did a radio a few minutes ago, and I looked out and I saw 6 cranes, and I said, "Man, there's a lot of cranes out there." They said, "Yeah, crane is the national bird of Nashville," which is pretty cool.
Pretty true.
And by the time they start the new stadium, when they get the new stadium, Katie bar the door, Nashville will get CFP national championships, Super Bowls, Final Fours. They'll get everything that Atlanta's got, because Nashville's a great city. You got the new airport. You know how to put on events. The entertainment district's fantastic. So Nashville is getting ready to, elevate itself. I'd make the analogy, maybe wrong, but when I took the job as Atlanta Sports Council president and Peach Bowl president back in 1998, we were just coming out of having the Olympics in 96. And so I said, we want to make Atlanta the capital of college football. So we went after Super Bowls, Final Fours, all those events, because we had the great volunteer base. We had a great corporate base that really supports the sports in Atlanta. and we had great hotels downtown, 13,000 hotels, the best and efficient airport in the country. And so we took all those ingredients, put them in a mix to say, okay, let's go after and make sports a sports capital, which we were successful in doing. And now we've done the same thing for football. I think Nashville is going to go through that same kind of trajectory from Atlanta having the Olympics. I think you'll do the same thing with major sports over the next decade.
I've thought that one of the things for a while that was holding us back was a lack of belief in ourselves. Did that ever really
It's interesting
pop
you
up
say
in Atlanta?
that. Interesting you say that. I don't know Nashville as well as you do, but in Atlanta, not until we did the Olympic Games did the city believe that it could do and unite and become the capital of sports. So it really does take a big event, getting everybody in the city from political to the government to the corporate to the volunteers to the fans. It takes all of those people to come together, and once you do that, now everybody has that strong belief in their strong Nashville perspective that now what's next? We can do the next thing. So I don't know what that is in Nashville, but it was the Olympics for Atlanta.
Kelly, get ready because I'll come to you in just a second. I'm assuming you have a parade planned on or around October 28th. Get my drift?
No.
I'm a Braves fan. I'm a big Braves fan. This team's got a shot.
Oh, big time. I'll tell you what, the Braves are as exciting this year. And who would imagine after all the success they've had, they're more exciting this year maybe than they've ever been in history. And, to see Freddie Freeman, which you hate losing Freddie Freeman, but Olsen's been tremendous.
He's been he played here for several years on the minor leagues. He
right?
actually committed to Vandy,
Really?
didn't go there, and then ended up a Nashville Sound in the new stadium.
He has been tremendous for the Braves. And they have the infield. I mean, that was so cool to see the All-Star game, to have the infield be Atlanta Braves. Yeah, they've done a heck of a job.
Kelly? I think I'm there. Kelly, say hello to Gary Stokan.
Gary, how you doing?
Kelly, how's it going? You beat me on Jerry Rice by about a half a second.
That's okay. I knew I knew who it was, but you got to.
Sandwich.
Yeah, you got.
I'm going to give these guys Chick-fil-A sandwiches. Make sure they give you one when you get home.
That'll be good. I appreciate it.
Hot dog. This may be a gift that keeps on giving.
I thought that was the answer when he first brought it on, but you have to ask Billy, because Billy's kind of sneaky about things, so you have to kind of nudge him along. But you kind of answered my question. I was thinking when I was growing up, it was the Orange Bowl, the Sugar Bowl, the Rose Bowl, and the Chick-fil-A obviously got started back in the 60s. But it's kind of amazing how, I was looking, and you already talked about it. Y'all have got a quarterfinal coming up. Y'all have got a semifinal coming up in the next couple of years and a national championship. And you said you started in 98. How hard of a climb was that to get where you are now?
That's a great question. It's interesting. My first year in 1998, I was in charge of picking the teams, right? Because back then you selected the teams. And we took Virginia, who was ranked about 13th, and I selected Georgia, who wasn't ranked. And our own newspaper, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, came out with the headlines of Georgia going to Peach Bowl, third-tier bowl game. They actually called us a third-tier bowl game.
Yeah.
And I remember fast forward 2016 when we hosted Alabama number 1 against Washington number 4 in the CFP semifinal game. Mark Bradley, who was the guy that wrote the article, he was in the 4th row of the press conference when I got up, and I stared daggers right through him, and I said, not bad for a third-tier bowl game to be hosting number 1 against number 4. And, that's how far we've come to be a third-tier bowl game, thought it that way by our own city and our own newspaper, to now hosting, we'll be the first city to host 2 national championships, to host the CFP. Last year, we had 24.5 million viewers for Georgia against Ohio State in the CFP semifinal.
Fairly
Chick-fil-A Peach
decent
Bowl.
game, by the way.
Not a bad game. It's interesting. I saw Georgia's rings, and on the one side of the ring, they have Peach Bowl, they have the score, and they have a clock dial with 12 o'clock on the clock dial with confetti next to it, which was when he missed the field goal. But, yeah, we had 24.5 million viewers, which is in the top 20 broadcasts all time of cable TV, believe it or not. Remarkable. And that was on New Year's Eve.
It, yeah.
If it wasn't on New Year's Eve, we'd had a lot more people watching the game.
A day later.
Yeah. So that's how we've done it. We've kind of had a strategy. We've been very blessed with corporate support like Chick-fil-A. I always say their food is great. Their people are better. They've been a great partner with us in our kickoff game, in our bowl game, in our College Football Hall of Fame. Now they're stepping away from our kickoff game. We just announced last week that Aflac is going to be the title sponsor of our kickoff game. So we went from a cow to a duck. So,
how many radio interviews today have you used that?
I haven't. This is the first one. This is the first one. We went from a cow to a duck. So it'll be the Aflac kickoff game.
You got to learn how to do that better.
Yeah, I know.
Put a little more feeling into it.
I know.
And don't forget that parade.
October
28th. Somewhere in and around there.
Yeah.
I'm ready for one. Look, I know you've got a bunch of these to do.
Well, I really appreciate you guys having us.
Thank you for taking the time and the advice. Don't bill us.
Well, I'll tell you what, I just think you got a great city. Scott Ramsey does a tremendous job. Very well respected. Really knows what he's doing. He's got a great team over there. And, I just look forward to coming over here. I'll call you guys for Super Bowl tickets.
And I'll reciprocate on World Series.
There you go.
Gary, thank you.
Great to be with you. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you.
Gary Stokan, the executive director of the Atlanta Sports Council and the CEO of the Peach Bowl. This man has been some serious moving and shaking in the college football world over the last 20 years. Let's check in now. Thank you very much. Let's check in with Butch Samad.
All right. They'll never give them to me.
Not a chance in the world he'll get them.
They'll never give them to him.
He knows. He just said there's not a chance he'll get them. Let me check in with both Butch Samad and with Jack Gold. They are somewhere in this hotel. Let's find out what it is they've got going on. Butch, I'll start with you. What's shaking?
Well, George, the one thing I keep going back to today is the constant theme of NIL. NIL, Sankey talked about it for a very long time during his opening statements, saying, kind of throwing out some pretty bold statements, saying things like no state has looked to enforce their own laws surrounding NIL regulations, and that student athletes are looking for unity in the NIL landscape. They want the same treatment when it pertains to them, as it pertains to international teammates, and as it pertains to their competitors. And pretty much every coach so far has been asked an NIL question here. There, I'll leave Jack to say specifically what Brian Kelly said about it. But then at the very end of Jimbo Fisher's statements, someone kind of commented and asked him about the very large NIL agreements that Texas A&M players have been accepting, and how they're very vocal online and on campus about some of the things that they've been able to do. And Jimbo Fisher kind of called out his players there and said things along the lines of, it doesn't matter until you get on the field, and even saying at the very end, they need to shut up and start winning some games. So it was pretty harsh words from Jimbo Fisher. Like I said, I'll leave it up to Jack to kind of comment on what Brian Kelly was saying, but that's one thing that all these coaches and executives can't get away from. It's NIL.
Oh,
wow.
You got that right. How about that?
Jimbo.
Well, Jimbo's feeling a little heat, isn't he?
Out of left field.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see where Jack Gold is. Looks like they've perhaps commandeered him into a – are you a hostage in there?
Looks like he's in an elevator.
Well, I found food, so we're good now. But
let's get our priorities. Yeah.
No.
So tell us what Brian Kelly had to say.
Yeah, so he was saying, he pretty much avoided making any suggestions on how to work NIL. He was just kind of like, I'm not here to fix NIL. I'm here to navigate it, which was, take it how you wish. Some people think the coaches have strong opinions on it. He didn't really offer much of an opinion. He was just like, I'm here to win and get players how we're allowed to.
Well, first of all, think about this. You won't hear a coach, even if they believe it, say that players shouldn't get paid. The minute a coach ever utters that, they are dead meat. So you're never going to hear that. And really, he probably is taking the smart attitude on it, Jack, because no matter what you say, you're going to get ripped some.
Yeah, absolutely. And he even actually added that when the question was asked, and he kind of was like, no matter how I respond here, there's going to be holes in my response that are going to be picked apart.
So tell us, we talked about it earlier about whether LSU has reached an Alabama and a Georgia level. And I guess I'm cynical enough to say I'll believe it when I see it. What did Brian Kelly say?
He wasn't voting confidence in his team a little bit. And me, if I was an LSU fan, I would kind of be a little disappointed on how he talked about Georgia and Alabama, and he talked about them in a tier above them, which granted they are, but as a head coach, I would like to see my head coach acting like, we just played in the SC tournament or SC championship. We're up there with them, but he was very complimentary of both teams and talked about reaching the level of Georgia, reaching the level of Alabama. So he clearly knows he's below them and made it known.
Okay, can we bring both of them in for just a second?
Yeah.
So the word got out. I'll move over here.
Other way.
You know what? I'd look better if I just went out of the picture. So, guys, for those who are just joining us, they're moving this thing next year to Dallas. It came out earlier when Sankey was asked about the new Dome Stadium here and would it ever host the SEC football title game. He sort of squashed that while leaving the door just slightly open, saying, there's always a possibility. Anything else that he brought up today that you all want to get into?
As it pertains to Sankey himself, I wouldn't say that besides some introductory words for each head coach, he hasn't really commented further from his introductory speech. Once again, citing one of the many books that he's been reading. I haven't heard anything else from anybody pertaining to Nashville. All I've heard is, kind of similar to what the NHL draft was not too long ago. Everyone's very complimentary of how Nashville has been hosting them, obviously, with the construction and, George, as you call it, Cranesville. It's, not the best time maybe to be hosting an event like this, but, once everybody gets inside, I've heard nothing but good things about their experience in Nashville so far.
George, yeah. I'll throw this out there real quick on Sankey, and I don't know if Jack has anything else on Sankey, but he was asked about sort of the super conference, 16-team super conference. He had to say this: we are a super conference. I'm focused on growth to 16. It's not been a topic for the Southeastern Conference of expansion. Do I think it's done? People say I get to decide that. We know who we are. We're comfortable who we are.
Well, if you remember last night, David Cutcliffe said at the panel deal that Clemson and Florida State have never come up for discussion.
Yeah, it feels like 16 is where they're really comfortable at.
Yeah. The one thing I know, if David said it, I completely believe it.
Yes.
Guys, good work today. We'll check back in with you starting tomorrow around 2:00. Jack, if you are a hostage in there, let Billy know and he'll bring you some food.
No, we got hot dogs earlier. We found them. They weren't very good, but we found some.
They appear to be a gift that'll keep on giving.
Yeah.
We'll go to the break on that. And when we return, Adam Sparks from the Knoxville News Sentinel will join us. He spent a weekend reading texts, and he has got a lot to say, so stick around.
How am I going to get to work? My car's totaled.
Scholar, our team is making a call right now. We'll get you a rental car. Don't worry.
That's a relief.
Call us 24/7. We're here. We're going to help.
Year number 2 of the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night was awesome. And the reason is really simple. I chose Strike and Spare, and they were amazing. They have great food, great bowling, and a staff that is truly ready to go the extra mile to help you. They have 5 family fun centers in the area to choose from, and for more info, go to strikeandspare.com or call them at 615-824-5685. Forget the fact that Sir Speedy Music City is owned by my BGA classmate James Warren. Their work stands on its own merit. James and his staff do incredible work, as evidenced by the huge banners at the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night. If you're looking for quality to help your marketing and business communications, and you want it at a reasonable price, these are your folks. Call them at 615-832-9511 or go to print at sirspeedymusiccity.com. And be sure to tell them Plaz sent you.
You can't see the sights without the sounds. From the crack of the bat to the roar of the crowd and everything in between, discover what Hit City has to offer. Single game tickets are on sale now.
Forget the fact that Sir Speedy Music City is owned by my BGA classmate James Warren. Their work stands on its own merit. James and his staff do incredible work, as evidenced by the huge banners at the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night. If you're looking for quality to help your marketing and business communications, and you want it at a reasonable price, these are your folks. Call them at 615-832-9511 or go to print at sirspeedymusiccity.com. And be sure to tell them Plaz sent you. Well, we are in a little bit of a four-corner stall, but that happens when you end up with media days. People get stopped in hallways. It gets crazy. We're looking around hoping Adam Sparks.
We've got Adam.
We do.
We've got him, George.
There he is. How about that? He's waving at me. So let's bring him up. Adam, how are you?
Good. How you guys doing?
Good. You're in a safe spot, it looks like. Are you here or back in Knoxville?
I am back in Knoxville. I'm going to come probably Wednesday or Thursday. I am buried too deep in internal documents to get out.
When did you first hear that it was coming down? I got a little bit of a hint late Thursday. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, I knew sort of when it was going to come. I mean, weeks out, I sort of knew maybe the week it was coming. And you kind of have to communicate with the NCAA there behind the scenes to figure out how the process goes. And you can look at other cases too and sort of figure out how long this one was going to take. So I had my vacations planned to get out of the way before this happened. And it as far as knowing exactly the day, I knew that week, which that it'd be probably Thursday or Friday.
What has been the reaction in Knoxville to the ruling?
For Tennessee side, a sigh of relief. There's some reporting we have right now on knoxnews.com that Tennessee had a plea deal in place 2 years ago and it was a 4-year probation out of 5. But if you look at the sanctions per year, it was pretty much about the same as what they got. So in Tennessee had already self-imposed and absorbed a portion of these sanctions. So they kind of knew what they were getting like 2 years ago. It was really only the big question was whether or not they would get a postseason ban. So when they didn't get that, it was a sigh of relief. It was a little bit of a celebration. On the other side of it, Jeremy Pruitt and the coaches and all that, they got what I think it's 39 years of show calls if you add them all together. And a lot of it has sort of been comical at this point to see the behind the scenes, what's going on. And we've reported a whole lot of that out of internal documents, but also text messages that we've obtained. I've looked through 6,000 text messages of coach and staffers during the violations, and a lot of comedy has come out of that. And I think Tennessee fans have enjoyed those.
Adam, this is a stupid question, but it's not the first dumb thing I've ever asked. Exactly what steps do you have to take under Freedom of Information Acts, that kind of thing, to get a hold of that kind of stuff?
You have to try a lot of times in a lot of ways to get what you're looking for. And you got to be very specific. I won't give away too many trade secrets, but I mean, I can say it this way. I've been on the beat now for a little over 2 years, 2.5 years, maybe, since I moved to Knoxville. And when this started, the Jeremy Pruitt case, it started in November of 2020. And as early as that, my predecessor, Blake Topmeyer, was putting in FOIAs, putting in open records requests to get some of the things that we're just now getting. So that was, 2.5 years ago. So it takes trial and error and, some people that actually know better than I do about how to get some of these things. But we were successful in the end. That's what mattered.
It appears that Tennessee had a pretty darn good idea that, look, we're going to have to fall on some level of sword here. Take me back to when you think they reached the decision of, look, we're going to totally cooperate. We know there's stuff that's gone on, and we're better off going this route than fighting them.
Well, I mean, if you had polled the rest of college football back when they got the tip in November of 2020, I think 95% of college sports would have said, do not cooperate. Look at Oklahoma State basketball, look at Missouri football. If you cooperate, it doesn't help you. That was the consensus back then. But if you were ahead of the game, you could see how the NCAA Constitution was going to change about a year later. You could see how the penalty phase would start to change. They're still waiting for it to change, but a lot of the things are in place. You would have to know what the NCAA Transformation Committee was going to recommend. That last one, the Transformation Committee, is Greg Sankey, the SEC commissioner, who's probably close to you right now in proximity. You would have to know how the NCAA winds of change were blowing. And the best thing that Tennessee did, among the best things, was that they hired a law firm full of former NCAA enforcement staffers. And once they're the best law firm that money can buy to fight these sort of things. And they knew months, really years ahead of things where the enforcement process would change. And Tennessee's timing set right into that. If this case came up a year earlier, Tennessee probably gets a 2-year postseason ban. If it happened a year later, you probably don't even consider a postseason. So that's really where you can understand the limbo that they were in this case.
I want to be very sensitive on this as I bring Kelly Holcomb into this, because I think most of you know,
that's good.
Up, Adam.
Jeremy Pruitt was a teammate of his and a good friend. Kelly, you go wherever you want to go, and I'll pick up the pieces after that.
Well, I'm not sure. I just want to know. It's been a long time since Adam and I were together. The last time we were together, I think we were both asleep in the backseat of a car coming back from Jonesboro, Arkansas, which was the drive from you-know-where. Is that where it was, Adam?
I think you were asleep in the back seat, and I think I was driving. I think that's.
I don't know. I don't know what it was. I know I was asleep because I could not stay up. That's funny. That's funny. Yeah, I hadn't really gotten too much into this case. I've listened to George and everybody, and I've listened to you and other people talk about it. It's just sad to me because he was a former teammate of mine. I still talk to Jeremy. I just don't know why, and you can't answer that. I don't understand why a guy does something like that. I know that you want to win games, but with all the stuff going on now with the NIL and all that, I mean, it's kind of a smug point, but. I just don't know where Jeremy. Like, does Jeremy get another job after this? What are your opinions on that? I mean, it's going to be hard. Yeah, it's going to be hard to go back to college football. And I know I talked to him several months ago, probably 8 months ago, and he seemed like he wanted to go to the NFL. But I don't. I mean, this kind of puts a really bad mark on his career in college, in the college level.
He's got a 6-year show cause. It may go to that length for him to get another job in college football. He has a tremendous defensive mind. So once he gets past that, I think he absolutely can get a job. There's a short memory in college football, and there's always a market for people that can outcoach the other side. And Jeremy Pruitt defensively can do that. He could go up or he could go down. He could go to the NFL and be a linebackers coach somewhere or an analyst. He was an analyst for 1 year with the Giants. He could do that. Now, that requires moving around. His family, I think, is pretty well entrenched. He still has young kids. He could drop down to the high school level. That's where he made his name initially. He was a tremendous high school coach. So he could do one of those two if he wants to stay in football. He's making some money elsewhere on the side right now. He's a trucking business right now. So we'll see. I mean, football is in his blood. He's gonna stay with that, I think, long term. He still has the appeals process to go through. I'm not confident he's going to have much knocked off of the show cause there. But, Jeremy Pruitt is an interesting case because I don't know him like you do, Kelly. But I think he genuinely is big-hearted. I think most likely he made a lot of mistakes in this and hired some people that made even larger mistakes in this. But for example, one of the couple of violations he actually copped to was that he gave $300 to the mother of a player during COVID when she had lost her job. She didn't have any money. She had medical bills. She showed up in tears at the facility asking for anything he could do to help. And the student assistance fund had been tapped out at that point, where you could go up with a financial hardship to get money. It was during COVID, and Jeremy Pruitt was told, we don't have any money, so tough. And so Jeremy Pruitt reached in his car, got $300 and gave the mother. There was another where a player didn't have anything to eat. He gave him $100. That's what he copped to. I do think that's probably actually his nature. He was making $4 million at the time, and he had a woman come up to him and just said a couple $100 would change everything. And I think that probably is from a genuine place of goodness. I think it probably just ran amok in trying to get recruits to campus and trying to win.
I don't think there's any question about that, Adam. He is a really good guy. I love Jeremy. I mean, he grew up in a football family, like you said. His dad was a high school coach, and he's really good at what he does. I just remember him starting as a true freshman up here, but he's got a good heart. He is that kind of guy. So, with that being said, what difference is the atmosphere of the program when Jeremy had it to the atmosphere of what Josh Heupel's done with it? I mean, Josh Heupel's obviously rolling now. He's got things going in the right direction, it seems. You've got to do it more than 1 year. For me, we all understand how that happens. But just talk about the atmosphere of what it was like to what it is now.
I mean, it's obviously completely different. I think it could be people would have a little bit of caution if they had not won the Orange Bowl last year. You sort of built up to last year. Hendon Hooker was a Heisman candidate. They beat Alabama. They beat Florida. They won 11 games. But there was a little bit of a fear at the end of that it could take a step back now because Hendon Hooker's gone. A lot of those players are gone. Jalen Hyatt's gone. Byron Young's gone. But they went up against a really good Clemson team, a top 10 team, and won the Orange Bowl with Joe Milton, with the 3 receivers that are going to be his starting receivers this year, with what looks more like the team this year probably than it did last year. And so there's a belief now that they can be maybe not as good as last season, but in that, in that neighborhood. They were 7-6 Heupel's first year. They were 11-2 the second. I tend to think they're probably going to be something in between those 2 years. Whichever one they're closest to will determine whether or not this is a long-term playoff type team program, that type of team every year, or if it's just sort of an up and down program.
Okay, so my last question here is an actual football question. So when Joe Milton came from Michigan, played against Pittsburgh, University of Pittsburgh, that first game, I remember that. It was not very good. Played really well in the Orange Bowl. Does he have a short leash? I mean, I know they got this young kid from California, the Nico kid, who's got all this NIL money. He's always it's right there for him. Seems like a really talented guy. Seems like he's got everything. But does Joe Milton have a short leash this coming up year?
I don't think so. I guess it depends on what you define as short. He's got a game early in the season down in his home state in Florida. If they go down to the Swamp and win, his leash is going to get a lot longer. They've got a manageable schedule early on. I think, if you look at those two guys in practice, as I did in the spring, they both have tremendous athleticism, have cannons for arms. People have made a lot of that with Joe Milton. Nico does too. But Joe Milton understands the offense. He understands the timing. Nico really looks like a guy that has Joe Milton's ability, but is a couple of years behind in understanding and all the things that it takes to run this offense. So I think it would take a lot. They have a lot of trust in Joe Milton. And if they were to lose games with him, especially SEC games, I think there would maybe be more of a feeling that things around him weren't fitting rather than him failing. And again, I say that because he played reasonably well against Vanderbilt, and that was a blowout win. It's Vandy, but still it's a win. And he beat Clemson. So I tend to think there's a lot more trust in Joe Milton now than it would have been had he not had that at the end of the year. That's sort of the silver lining in Hendon Hooker getting hurt, if you want to find one, that they know Joe Milton can do it, although briefly, because they've seen it be done.
Yeah, and I've asked Tony Basilio this before, but I'm going to ask you too because they're my son's really good friends. But how are the Herring boys doing?
Really good, really good. So Elijah Herring will be, as a sophomore, he'll be in the rotation at linebacker. They lost Jeremy Banks. They brought in a BYU transfer. They like Elijah Herring's. They like his leadership. They like his understanding of the defense. He played, if I remember right, more snaps than any freshman last year. A lot of those were on special teams, but they like him a lot at linebacker, and they're going to try to play more linebackers this year than they did last year, and he'll be involved in that rotation. Caleb Herring, the edge rusher, I mean, he's got all the tools. They love him. They love his size. They love that he can get off the edge. And they've got a need there. I mean, I think that this defense is going to struggle mightily if they don't have somebody coming off the edge to take that spot where Bauer and Young was last year. People want to focus in on the secondary. It was bad last year, and they won 11 games. It can be bad this year, and they can still win 10, 11 games. But they got to have a pass rush. And so Caleb Herring plays a position that's of need, and the guys that are in front of him are unproven. So he's going to have an opportunity. I think he's probably a guy that fits in maybe as a situational guy on third down early, and they'll see where that goes.
Well, good to see you, Adam. I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
You too, Kelly.
Adam, let me ask a couple more things before we let you go. It has gotten out, and maybe it's been out for a good while, that somewhere in all this, Donde Plowman's office received a tip saying there's stuff going on. Do you know who it is?
I think I may know who it is. That's, I could pick them out of a lineup, maybe better than 50% chance, not to the level that I could report it. I've been asked this a lot this week. I bet
you have.
Who's a tipster? When are we going to find out? I honestly don't think it matters that much. And here's why. Again, I read 6,000 text messages. I read thousands of pages of documents to see how this started and how it ended. And the way it was unraveling in the last couple of months of the recruiting scandal, had Donde Plowman not got that tip from that person then, her office would have got that tip a week later or 2 weeks later. It was coming unglued, so it was going to get out. And really, even when that tip came in, they investigated initially. They did a few interviews, and they got nowhere in the investigation. What really blew it open was a couple weeks after that tip. They were doing an interview with a student worker in the football facility, a football student worker, and they just happened to repeat a joke that they had heard in the football office, and it was about Brian Niedermeyer, sort of the kingpin of this, assistant coach. He had most of the Tennessee assistants, aside from I think T. Martin and Jay Graham, did not accept a pay cut during COVID. They did not accept the pay cut, and the joke around the football office was Brian Niedermeyer did not accept the pay cut during COVID because he had to pay for nail salon visits for recruits and their mothers. And there was truth to that. We found out. Well, the investigators asked, what does that mean? And then the student worker gave up his phone and showed that he had lots of text messages to show that he was one of the runners that would go and pay for those nail salon visits for recruits and their mothers. And from there, they confiscated everybody's phone and the thing blew open. So the tip kind of kicked it off, but the joke about a nail salon in the football office is what really got it going.
Okay, last thing, kind of philosophical. I'm just kind of curious here. In the 80s, Vanderbilt got caught in a steroid deal. They really were the first school on the NCAA Division I level that got caught. And as a young sideline announcer, I had some suspicions that some stuff was going on. I was no doctor. I was no chemist, but boy, there seemed to be some amazing transformations of bodies over a half year, summer, whatever. As a beat writer, did you have suspicions that this stuff was going on?
Well, now remember, George, if the timeline is I got here right as Pruitt was being pushed out the door.
Yeah.
And Josh Heupel was coming in. Now, I can speak somewhat for Blake Topmeyer, my predecessor, on that. No, not really. I mean, here's the thing: is the last year of the violations occurred during COVID, so guys were being people were being brought onto campus when there's supposed to be nobody on campus, and so it was a ghost town. So, when a lot of people have said, "How could you not see for that long, for an entire year?" There's nobody on campus. They were going to restaurants and hotels where there was almost nobody there. How would Phil Fulmer not know? That's a whole other discussion, but that's somebody during COVID when there wasn't really much face-to-face contact. So it's plausible that it went on there without anybody noticing, because you had people that were literally socially distanced from coaches and players. And so it was the best time to pull off something like this, but it just got so big and so many people knew about it, it was eventually going to come out.
Adam, on really short notice, appreciate your doing this. Thanks as always.
All right. Thanks, guys. Y'all have a good one.
Adam Sparks, Knoxville News Sentinel, really good reporter. Kelly's known him for years. I have too, from his days on the Vandy beat. He's an excellent reporter. We will wrap the show up with Plaster Bet of the Day. Stick around from SEC Media Days in the Grand Hyatt Hotel in downtown Nashville, or as I have now renamed it, Cranesville. We're coming back.
As the trusted premier custom home builder in Middle Tennessee, Donnelly Timmons has over 20 years of experience in the industry. Whether you're looking to build your dream home or renovate your current home, their team will ensure that every client and every remodel is unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donnelly have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-6666 7983 or log on to DonleyTimmons.com.
For over 35 years, Wilson Bank & Trust has been committed to providing customized banking solutions to help individuals, families, and businesses in Tennessee achieve their goals. As your full-service community bank, we are proud to offer loans with competitive rates, local decision-making, and fast, friendly service from our experienced lenders. No matter where you are on your financial journey, Wilson Bank & Trust is ready to help you take the next step. Visit your nearest Wilson Bank & Trust office or online at wilsonbank.com to get started today. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Family owned and operated for more than 2 decades, Alaco Fine Wood Floors is Nashville and Middle Tennessee's choice for premium quality hardwood floors. Since 1995, Jimmy Alaco and his army of employees have embodied the approach of taking pride in one's craft and providing superior customer service, growing from a one-man shop to a team of 23 professionals who share the founder's passion for quality craftsmanship and customer satisfaction. If you are interested in contacting them, you can find their headquarters at 2505 Winford Avenue in Berry Hill, or give them a call at 615-356-0303. Again, that's 615-356-0303, or log on to alacofinewoodfloors.com. Alaco Fine Wood Floors, serving Middle Tennessee's hardwood flooring needs since 1995.
At Baird, we have a different slant on global financial advice. That global capabilities mean nothing without personal attention. We have investor relationships in 35 countries and market expertise in over 40 industry verticals, all to help make the most important investment connections of all, yours. Global financial advice with a client-first approach. It's the shape of things to come. Discover the Baird difference at BairdDifference.com.
Final segment on a Monday, broadcasting live from Cranesville, Tennessee at SEC Media Days at the Grand Hyatt Hotel. It's time for Plaster's Bet of the Day. George, you started 1-0 on your second season. How does that feel?
Feels like the only win the Braves got over the weekend.
Yeah, they struggled this weekend.
The White Sox,
they put it on them.
Put it to them a little bit. There's probably a little cockiness right now, bordering on downright giddy.
And
maybe that's a good thing for them.
I think the pitching injuries finally caught up to them in a series.
Kobe Allard is not the answer to anything.
No,
he got ripped yesterday.
And
right
poor
now,
Mike Soroka came in and really didn't. I mean, he didn't pitch bad.
Did
but
he? I didn't see that.
He came in for Allard.
Relief.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that.
It was middle of the road, but I mean, they're hoping he can get back to form.
Right now, it looks a little.
Looks
a
bleak.
little bit more like bring him back in spring training next year, and let's see what happens.
Yeah, I don't think that would hurt him too bad. They could use him though, right about now.
Yeah. So where did we go tonight, Kelly? Because I know you'll be rooting for Washington.
The Cubbies.
Yeah, that's correct. Nats. Go Nats.
Nice.
Go Nats. Go Nats.
They suck.
Kelly loves this.
Kind of like your golf game sucks.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very. The word is rancid. Meaning
okay, that's a good word.
Bad. Look it up. I don't know.
I know all about that word.
I don't know the
golfing
full.
is the one thing George just sort of accepts and
rancid.
Doesn't even try to argue anything about his game.
No, but I'll say this.
No need.
I'll say this.
There's no need.
It's straight down the middle.
Hey, listen, give it to George. He's 80 years old and he's still on the golf course. Don't worry about it.
Not 80. When I woke up this morning, I felt like I was 80. Hey, tomorrow we've got a kick butt show.
Boy, do we.
Tony Basilio joining us from Knoxville. You can take to the bank. That's going to be a little cynical. Then Tony Barnhart will join us to plug his new book that will be coming out soon. It's really a pretty amazing story, what he is writing about. I think you're really going to enjoy it. Vanderbilt football coach Clark Lea will be with us. He got a new 3-year contract extension that got announced today. And Palmer Toms, am I saying the last name right?
Yes, Palmer Toms covers Georgia for their On3 site. Does a really good job. So.
And we will ask the question, can they three-peat?
It's up to the quarterback.
Sure seems like it.
Kelly, it always is, isn't it?
Always is. That's why they get paid the money they get paid in the NFL. You've got to have one behind center that can play. If you don't, you're behind the 8 ball.
Got to have a quarterback, George.
Yes, I'm aware of that. I'll tell you when I learned it. 2 words, Reggie Ball, Georgia Tech, mid 2005, 2006.
That's when you realize.
Yeah.
That's a blast from the past.
My team had Calvin Johnson, but it also had Reggie Ball. Kelly, see you tomorrow.
See you, George.
Behave. All of you behave. We'll see you back in Cranesville tomorrow.